Hello, everybody. I want to talk today about the Rings of Power Season 1, Episode 5 that dropped on Amazon Prime Video 2 days ago. I don't make very many YouTube videos, and they're not always about the same subject. So I should ask my vast audience, of course, that if you find what I have to say interesting, subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Maybe more people will watch it. But if you don't find my video interesting, then just don't do anything at all. Okay, so I did do one other video where I sort of discussed the first 4 episodes of Rings of Power Season 1 in a general way. I didn't go into a lot of specifics, but I went through the general complaints that people have had about it. I want to focus more on episode 5 today in a little bit more detail. Now, some of you may have read Lord of the Rings, and some of you may not have read the Lord of the Rings and have only watched the show, perhaps. Perhaps you haven't even watched the show yet. I'm not going to release a lot of spoilers about this episode in case you haven't watched it, but I have to say a few things to, make any interesting comments at all. One thesis I want to advance here about the Rings of Power, or two theses. Okay, it's kind of like watching a train wreck in slow motion. That is, it's horrifying, but it's also fascinating, and you can't take your eyes off it. Or when you're passing a car wreck on the other side of the road and everybody slows down to look, oh my gosh, did somebody die, or what happened there? So the other point I want to make is this seems to actually to be very educational to anybody that's interested in writing fiction, maybe writing a screenplay, filming a movie or a short movie, or going into television, anything like that. Anybody that's interested in the arts, because there are so many YouTube commentaries on this series. I don't always look, but I've never seen anywhere near as many commentaries on other shows as the Rings of Power is creating. Almost all of them negative. But by listening to some of them, you can really learn a lot about how to or how not to write a screenplay, write dialogue, advance a plot, film, costume, etc. So this is a great experimental education. Who knew? Thank you, Amazon, for providing such rich material for people to learn about how to or not to do things. Now, I do see a lot of flaws with it. I'm still going to keep watching it, at least so far. I know people that loved Peter Jackson's trilogy are disappointed that it's nowhere near the quality of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's not going to be. People that love the books they're of course disappointed that its quality doesn't match the books. On the other hand, and it's not going to match even The Expanse, which was an excellent TV series that Amazon adopted from books, science fiction books. I loved The Expanse. On the other hand, it's not. Oh gosh, I can't think of that other fantasy series that Amazon tried to adopt, and gosh, that was terrible. The Wheel of Time. That was also based on a series of books that I never read. I tried watching that. I think I got through 2 episodes, and I said, "Oh, this is so boring, and it's hopeless," and I just stopped watching it. But Rings of Power, despite all the complaints that people have leveled, I'm still watching it. seeing what happens. So let's talk some about season 5 and whether it's improved at all or it hasn't improved. Um, I guess I should start first with, as one reviewer calls her, Galadriel, in a sort of mocking way. Galadriel, she's really the lead character for this story. At least in season 1, she is. Maybe they'll make some changes. Maybe they'll rewrite some things starting in season 2. I don't know. Yes, they wanted to be appeal to a wide audience. Everyone is doing now. Have a strong female character in the lead. Here, it could have worked if her character hadn't been so unlikable in the beginning here. To be a little more faithful to Tolkien, and I'm not saying that the show needs to be faithful to every detail in his story. It doesn't. But this is about several really big events. The creation of the Rings of Power, which includes 3 rings for elves, 9 for men, 7 for the dwarves. And then Sauron creates his one ring, which he hopes will control all of the others and assist him to control the whole world. So none of these rings have been forged yet at the start of this series. And now we're more than halfway through the first year, and there's no sign that they're about to start forging either. And then, Sauron has to create Mount Doom, which is where he's going to forge his one ring. There's no Mount Doom yet. Celebrimbor, the elf crafter, he's going to have a tower where he forges the elven rings, and I guess he forges. I think he forges the other rings for those other races, as I recall. He doesn't have his tower yet, and then there's got to be a big battle. It's called the Last Alliance. It's the last time that elves and men on a large scale join together their armies together in order to defeat Sauron and his minions, orcs and men that he has won over to his side, and other creatures, so that he doesn't become an evil world dictator. So there's got to be this huge climactic battle near the end of the series. And in this battle, the 2 main characters on the good side are Gil-galad, the elf king, and we see him already right up at the beginning, and Elendil, a man from Numenor, and we see him right up from the beginning too. So it would have been logical to have a little more time with those 2, make them at least sort of equal to Galadriel in attention. Elendil, this actor, has a good presence about him. He does convey a bit of gravitas, even though his lines are not always the greatest, but he's got a good onstage presence. I think it's better than Gil-galad's, and I just don't feel the show made Gil-galad look as elvish as he should, as regal as he should, and as sort of magically powerful as he's meant to be. And he doesn't look like much of a war. We haven't seen him so much as twiddle a dagger. He's got to be one of the 2 that take down Sauron in the end. So anyhow, Galadriel, start out with Galadriel, and everybody is complaining that she's totally unlikable. Yeah, she's not at all like the Galadriel of Lord of the Rings or the Galadriel that Peter Jackson rendered pretty faithfully in his movies. She's just she's got unrealistically good fighting abilities, and she seems to have no magic whatsoever. And furthermore, at something like 1,200 years of age, she's developed no social skills at all. Who knew that Galadriel was autistic? Who knew? Anyhow, episode 5. Did I hear 2 sentences, perhaps this time, out of Galadriel's mouth that were not arrogant or condescending? I think so. I think the writers are trying to show the beginning of development in her character. Boy, it's slow. It's a long time coming, and it's hard to imagine her going from the character they showed in the first 4 episodes towards something like the character that you see in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's a bridge too far, but I think I see the beginning of an attempt to show progress. I already said I got my complaints about Gil-galad. I thought he's a little better in his portrayal. I thought was a little better in episode 5 than it was the first 4, but he still looks more like a human than he does an elf. I already said I like Elendil's acting. Isildur, Elendil's son, man, he does not look like a warrior, nor does he look like king material at all. He looks like a shiftless lout, a sulky baby man who wants everything given to him just because. So maybe they're trying to show that his personality has something to do with why he would keep the ring in the end rather than destroy it as it should have been. But it's just, I can't see it working very well for him, to be at his father's side fighting Sauron and actually cut the ring off Sauron's finger and all that jazz. I mean, he hasn't shown any, he doesn't even look like somebody that would be at the head of battle. Okay, Meteor Man, guy that falls from the sky. If you've watched any of the episodes, you probably saw it. There was lots of speculation in the first 4 episodes about who is Meteor Man going to turn out to be. Is he actually Sauron? Is that Gandalf? Is it one of the other wizards? Because there were 5 of them altogether that got sent to Middle Earth. There were 2 blue wizards, and there was Gandalf, and there was Saruman, and there was Radagast. And in the Lord of the Rings, we never see the 2 blue wizards. They're not in the story, but they're mentioned. The other 3 are. Or is he something else that they've created for their story that doesn't even appear in Tolkien's stories? Well, I can see ways that you could argue 3 different things, but I think he is a wizard. I know the purists complain, the wizards didn't appear yet, not at this time in the story. They didn't appear till later. Okay, all right, just accept it. We're going to have a wizard in here. Who is he? An argument that he turns out to be Gandalf is that, notice the first people that he comes across are the hobbits or their predecessors, what develops into the hobbits of later Middle Earth, the Harfoots. He runs into them and he starts learning their language. And Tolkien makes a point in Lord of the Rings that of all the wizards and of all the other races, Gandalf was the only one that paid any attention at all to the hobbits and liked them and saw good qualities in them. Well, okay, so it makes sense that if this turns out to be Gandalf, this is how he came to know the hobbits, because they're the first ones that come across him when he arrives in Middle Earth. That makes sense. The reason why I think it shouldn't be Gandalf, even though the script may make it turn out to be Gandalf, is when you watch his magic, that we see more of it in episode 5 than we have before. It's mostly an air sort of magic. I mean, that's the way it's coming across to me, anyhow. Like when he pounds his fist in the ground and creates this big shockwave, for example. Now, Gandalf's specialty was really fire magic. So could that mean that he's one of the blue wizards? Blue sky, sky blue air. Right? Also, the blue wizards were in the east. This whole story, in case you didn't get it or you haven't watched it, this is pretty much taking place in the Middle Earth part of it. It's focused on the southeastern area, the area that becomes Mordor, and parts around it. So, that's east. The blue wizards were off in the east. Possible it's one of the blue wizards. The third argument is this is Saruman. He does show, even though he hasn't learned to control it yet, he shows a lot of magical power, that's for sure. See that most in episode 5. And Saruman does start out good. And he does start out fighting against evil. It's only much later that Saruman gets tempted to the dark side. Because first, he can't see any way that Sauron is not going to win. And secondly, he starts thinking, well, what if I had that ring instead of Sauron? I could do good. I could do great things with it. And he becomes more and more obsessed with gaining that power, and that turns him. But at first, he's good. So I think they want to portray this wizard as, I'm assuming it is a wizard, Meteor Man. They want to portray him as somebody that's going to help the cause initially. So that's my take on him. Elrond, I've mentioned before my complaint that he looks and acts nothing whatsoever like Hugo Weaving's Elrond in The Lord of the Rings. Weaving's was a fantastic character. This guy comes across with not nearly as much stage presence at all, as well as showing no indication of any kind of magic ability, really, except for the fact of maybe far seeing that all the elves have. And it's just kind of sad. Okay, this dialogue between Gil-galad and Elrond about the dwarves having discovered Mithril. I think the plot and the dialogue writing here really made a mess of this. Let's think about it. Supposedly, they sent Elrond to, or Elrond even volunteers to go talk to the dwarves because Celebrimbor wants to build this tower to make the rings, and he doesn't have enough time and he doesn't have enough resources. They're going to need a lot of help. The dwarves are great builders. They're also, great smiths. And Elrond's a friend of them. And he says, well, I'll go talk to Durin and recruit their help. Next thing you know, you see this tower is like halfway constructed already. How did that happen? How much time went by here? And you never hear any dialogue at all between Elrond and Durin about the dwarves coming to help. And yet suddenly there's the tower halfway built. How does this happen? And then Durin Younger Jr. is talking to his father, and the father says, what do you think? Do you really think Elrond just came here to renew your friendship, or is there something else they want that they're not letting on? And Durin the Younger says, yeah, I think there's something else. And the father says, go to Lindon and find out what it is that's actually going on that they're not admitting. Well, it can't be that they're going to ask the dwarves for help building the tower. It looks as if the dwarves have already been helping them build the tower, even though this was never mentioned in the dialogue. Perhaps it's that the elves want their mithril, even though the elves aren't supposed to know about it. Furthermore, when Elrond comes back from having visited Durin, Gil-galad presses him. Did you find out something that we didn't know? Do they have something that we didn't know? And Elrond says, well, I swore an oath to Durin that I can't say. Which, think about it in real life. When somebody gives you an answer like that, what they're saying is, yeah, there is a secret. I'm not supposed to divulge it, but just by saying that, you basically divulge it. I mean, if you ask um, a friend of yours, hey, is your sister sleeping with my brother? Well, I promised her I wouldn't say. Okay, there's your answer, right? And yet Gil-galad keeps pressing him like, you're betraying all the elves if you won't tell me the truth. Like, what good's it going to do if he tells him anyhow? Gil-galad can't then go and insist to Durin that they need his mithril if Durin thought he doesn't know and made Elrond promise. It's just going to piss him off all the more. He's going to think Elrond betrayed me and they're never going to get any mithril. Oh, but then it turns out that they already know there's mithril. So why does Gil-galad even bother pressing Elrond to admit it if he knows? Why didn't you just come out and say, look, we know they got this mithril. We need this stuff to avoid dying. Yeah, you're his friend. Go tell him we need his help. Just be upfront, Tell him we're all gonna die if we don't get some good mithril weapons. Oh, then Elrond finally does go ask after he finds out they already knew, even though they were pressing him to tell them. Oh, that doesn't bother him at all. And he goes, talks to Durin. Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Just tell me how I'm saving the elven race, and then you can have all the mithril you want. It's fine. It makes it really, it's kind of ridiculous the way they said this. They could have done it in such a better way. So that was disappointing. I have to look at my notes. Okay, let's talk about Numenor and Numenor coming into the fight here. I guess a combination of Galadriel, as obnoxious as she is, and then seeing this meteor falling across the sky and seeing the white leaves falling from the white tree, all convinces the Queen Regent of Numenor that, oh, yeah, there really is a grave danger here. I guess we better go send an expedition to Middle Earth and see if we can find out where this evil is located and whether we can help the Southerners to resist it. So they say they're going to send 5 ships and 500 men. What? First of all, Numenor is supposed to be the most powerful, by far, kingdom of men that exists at the time. They're stronger, they're nobler, they're wiser, they live longer, they're wealthier than by, an order of magnitude or more than any other men that exist. They get 5 ships to spare. Then they have to ask for volunteers to send 500 men. Some people have tried to suggest that an explanation for this is that because a lot of the Numenorians are kind of mad at the elves and don't want anything to do with them, that's why she's not going to use her standing army and standing navy. And yet she asks, is the Sea Force ready? Implying that, yeah, they are using regular troops. They only got 500, including volunteers. They only got 5 ships. This isn't Numenor. This is the island of Crete or something. And then 2 of the 5 ships get destroyed. If you look at the ships in the movie, man, they spent $1 billion making this. These ships, they'd be lucky if they could hold 25 men per ship and still make it across the ocean intact and not capsized and drowning them all. They're just not that big. And then Elendil finally agrees to bring Isildur along, but he's going to be a stable boy. These ships can't hold horses, let alone a stable. They're lucky if they can hold 25 men with their armor and their weapons and some provisions. There's no horses. So it's really underwhelming, and that Numenor is nowhere near as powerful as it's supposed to be. And the ships don't have anywhere near the capacity that they're saying those ships have. So they're going to sail off with 3 little ships with about 20 or 25 guys on them. And they're going to now fight against the orcs and rescue the Southerners' kingdom. Yeah, I don't think so. Not believable. Which leads to the other mystery. Who is Halbrand exactly? There's been a lot of questions about where's Sauron? Where everybody's talking about Sauron. And we know that Sauron is going to make a ring, and Sauron is going to convince the elves to make rings. So who is he? Some people say, well, maybe Meteor Man is actually Sauron. They do keep Meteor Man ambiguous, or they try to keep him ambiguous as to whether he's good or evil. I think he's going to be good, and I think he's going to be a wizard. Is it Adar, who's leading the orcs right now, but he's he's a corrupted elf? Some people take from scene 5 that he's denying that he's Sauron. He didn't deny that he's Sauron. When this man comes and says, "I'll pledge allegiance to you, Sauron," he gets mad and throws the guy down, and then he says, "If you want to pledge allegiance, it must be done by blood," and he makes him kill this young lad. Okay, we already know Adar's evil, but he didn't say that he wasn't Sauron. He said nothing about who Sauron was or exactly who he was. He already said before he'd like to be a god. It held out the possibility that he was Sauron, as far as I'm concerned. Don't think he is. Another commentator pointed out there's this one scene that we saw, I think it was in episode 4 actually, where about 3 people dressed all in white but looking rather creepy come to the crater where Meteor Man fell to Earth, and they look at it. And one is this guy with really short blonde hair, and he's got an extremely creepy look about him, although he's fair featured. That is exactly who could be Anatar. Anatar is what Sauron called himself when he was manipulating the elves to make a forge and make rings of power that he could later control. He had fair features and he deceived lots of people. So, yeah, I think that reviewer is right. I think we just saw Sauron, aka Anatar, when he visits the crater where Meteor Man landed. I think that's the clue. We'll see later whether or not that's true. Okay, so in summary, we have very mediocre writing at best. It's average. Could be a heck of a lot better. It wasn't as bad as The Wheel of Time. But nowhere as good as The Expanse. Why would you spend $1 billion and not have better screenwriters? Cinematography in places could have been a lot better. The plot development could have been a lot better. I was okay with the slow pace in the first few episodes. I thought, okay, they're giving us time to let us know the characters. But now we're in episode 5. We're most of the way through season 1, and not a lot has happened yet. Okay, then 3 little Numenorian ships are going to go off to land in Middle Earth. That's about it. Oh, and then these humans are trapped in a tower and the orcs are going to come get them. But that hasn't happened yet either. They keep promising, okay, next episode is going to be more action. We've been thinking for several episodes that next episode maybe we'll see more action, but we haven't. When Nori, this Harfoot / Hobbit, is talking to Meteor Man about their life, she says, well, we go here in the spring and we go there in the fall and we go there in the winter and we go there in the summer. And we just go around and around and around, but we never really get anywhere. It's like a metaphor for the plot of the first 5 episodes. Anyhow, they keep going around and around and around between, the Harfoots and Meteor Man, uh, Arondir and Bronwyn and the humans in the south, and Numenor and the elves and the dwarves, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But not a heck of a lot happens, at least not visibly. You see some things that are happening, although they're not explained how, like the construction of the tower where Celebrimbor is going to make elven rings. So I want to mention once again a couple of reviews that I think are very educational in their critiques in different areas. This was the worst. These are all on YouTube. If you just type in the title, you'll get the video right away. This was the worst episode yet. That's about episode 5. And I disagree. I don't think it was the worst episode yet. I think it's about the same as the others. That's by Eric the Cameraman. Eric the Cameraman gives wonderful commentary about how to film a scene or how not to film a scene. If you're interested in cinematography, listen to Eric the Cameraman. Okay, The Rings of Power episode 5 review by Lana, Lana Marie, Marie. I saw her for the first time yesterday. She loves focusing on the costuming. That's her thing. She talks about some of the rest of the show too, but she spends more attention on the costuming and where she thinks they got it right and where it's not very good. And lastly, this is the latest one. I Fixed the Rings of Power. That's by Book Furnace. That's his channel title. He's a writer and he knows writing, and he gives excellent commentary on where the screenwriters are going wrong and what they should have done better. So if you're interested in, like I say, if you're interested in any aspect of storytelling, filmmaking, TV, TV production, these guys have very good insights, each in their respective field. So I may start making a weekly commentary episode by episode as we get through season 1. And let's hope it retains at least, or I hope that it retains enough viewership that Amazon won't just throw in the cards and say, oh, forget it. We're not going to waste any more money than what we already spent. Considering how much they spent on the rights, you'd think they're going to at least do season 2, but they should do some rewriting before they, I guess they haven't started filming yet. I think they're planning it out, but boy, they should revamp season 2 and see if they can make some of the dialogue better, some of the plots better integrated with each other, the pacing better, and so on. Or maybe they could rebuild some audience. It's hard when you've lost audience right off the bat to pull them back. Takes a heck of a lot of shift in the buzz to more positive to lure people back when they didn't like it at the start. But it is possible to grow viewership if you improve the product enough. In any case, even if it never gets better, I've never seen such an opportunity for online education about how to do a TV series. So that's it for today. And again, give it a thumbs up and watch the videos when they come out, if you would, please. Thanks.